Well, welcome back to Talking Trusia. I'm your co-host, Dylan.
I'm your co-host, Cole.
Oh, I just showed up.
He just showed up. And we're sponsored by Dr. Pepper. We're not. We're not sponsored by Dr. Pepper. Disclaimer. But this is Brown. He stars in a lot of our campaigns. He's our breadwinner. He does the heavy lifting.
Class development team lead. Does a lot of stuff for the channel.
Handsome mustache. I don't know. He's got a lot of qualities.
Well, I mean, the mustache is the only one that counts.
That's fair.
He's I'm not gonna do it.
I guess we could probably get into it then.
Yes, we
You
can
talk about why we're here.
Yep. Our favorite Trusian characters today.
There's a lot. We have a list of 75. Buckle up. It's going to be a great 12 hours. I think you're going to really enjoy it.
I'd probably die if we did this for 12
Yeah, no, 12
hours.
hours would be rough, especially because it's hotter than heck in here.
I guess that I will start.
No, I think I'm going to start. So the first character we wanted to talk about is really near and dear to my heart. I know a lot about him. But because I'm a kind guy, I'm going to let Cole talk about him.
Well, funny enough, you should know a decent bit about him because he came about in the time period we were like, how do we create cool characters for this world? We're like, we make hero forges and we send them to each other, and then so we make the hero forges and the other person makes
Monocle.
the story.
No? Which one is this?
No, this is I don't really know how to explain the minifigure because it's been 3-4 years ago, but you sent me one, and we didn't have any kind of backstory for who created the Arcanus Academy in the Druid.
This is the dude with the monocle, the magic monocle.
Probably, yes. Yes, but Septus also has a magical monocle.
Exactly. Where does he get it from?
Who knows? But, yeah, and he became this character, if we go into his backstory a little bit. He starts off a Skiran prince during the time that Vorkal's influence is really infiltrating Skira, and you have this kind of weird divide in the population amongst people who are following the old religion and people who are following the new religion, which is the Vorkal priests. I think you highlighted that pretty well in a short story that you wrote.
Yes. Which name I cannot recollect at this time.
That's okay. But, Balial's father is really the one who starts all that, and he lives in this time in Skira where he's old enough to remember what things used to be like, and he now lives in what they are as a young man, and
He's a boomer.
in a way, yes.
Yeah, he's a little boomer.
But he befriends these priests of Orin who come in. Like, they are kind of like these... they're kind of druids before there were druids. They know they're probably going to die. They know it's a suicidal mission, but you know what? They're here to spread the message of Orin. And at the time, they're called hedge priests. And he goes and starts listening to them. And at first, his father turns a blind eye, kind of like, the lost son kind of thing. Like, what can I do with this kid? Just let him do whatever he wants. Until the point that Balial's like, hey, I'd like to take the vows and become a hedge priest myself. Which leads his father to lock Balial away and wholesale start slaughtering the hedge priests.
As he should.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Balial, he prays for power in the cell that he's in to Orin in the promise that he won't seek vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
And he's granted that power, and he's able to bust out using like a kind of the nature magic we've come to know these druids for, and rescue the remaining hedge priests and the people who don't want to go along this line the Skirans are, and he exoduses them to what we know as a druid would, and really founds Gratacia.
So that's really like the birth of that vow or oath that the druids make then?
Mm-hmm. It is. He's the first to do it, and he takes the people there, and amongst the population. I don't know that like when he gets there, his goal was like, oh, I'm going to create this order of servants to Orin as much as he is. I want to make a homeland, and it just becomes this thing where he constructs thassel root out of one of the great thassel trees that's in the druid wood, and from there he just starts teaching people, and they all have to take the oath. He realizes they all have to take the oath to get the powers, and it becomes this organization.
So what's that main difference then between the hedge priests and the druids?
I think that the hedge priests were more like they're more decentralized. They're not as standardized also in like their teachings. And he took what the hedge priests taught people, this way of Orin, and codified it and turned it into a curriculum with an academy and a recognizable order. Just a lot more structure than what the hedge priests were.
Less roaming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you have Belial's really taking what would be the religious aspect of Orin, and he's really like having convention, if you will, and defining like this is what a follower of Orin does and is, where the hedge priests are like, this one interprets Orin this way and this one interprets Orin this way, and it just becomes this thing where if you go to a different hedge priest, you're getting a different lecture about the same lesson.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. It sounds kind of like the oral tradition versus the written down, because it makes me think a lot about later on when the Druids are more established, they send out, really essentially missionaries to a bunch of different locations to either teach or to just offer their services. They can't kill people, so they might as well heal and do other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and well, it is that for them, but it's also not for them, because they start sending people out much, much, much later on in the history, which I'll get into with another character. But I think that other character persuades the Druids to do that because of what you're saying. Yes. Really, what's super funny in playing around with the character that is Belial, because at one point in time I was like, man, he'd be such a cool, like, the main quest giver of a story, and like I did a character sheet on him, and it's kind of really why I wanted to talk about him, because he developed his own personality in a way where he's become this teacher, right? He's developed a curriculum, and it's not like he can develop the curriculum and say, go forth and teach what I have developed, because he's the only guy at this point.
Yeah.
And when I made his character, I just thought about what it would be like to be a son or a prince who was not in political step with his father, and who was sneaking around doing these things and didn't really have a strong sense of self-worth for a long time. And he became this, one of his character traits was like, hates speaking, or hates public speaking, hates teaching people. And it's like, he has really gone the extra mile for this religion that he has believed in, or been elevated due to this religion.
That reminds me a lot of the origin of Buddha.
Really?
Almost identical stories.
Yeah, that is actually very similar. And I am very much enjoying hearing that for the first time. I've met a lot of these characters that you guys have been discussing over presumably many tapings of this show.
Yeah, dozens.
I'm familiar with the characters, but I don't know a lot of the niche, nitty-gritty, fine details. So it's very refreshing. Like I'm having a hard time thinking of anything to say, because I just want to listen to the tale.
Well, I figured that you would particularly like Belial because of the whole druid thing that you have.
I do like druids. I do really like druids. Have been accused of being a favorite, maybe sympathize to him a little bit, you know?
Yeah, well, and to go beyond that, it's because as we know, like, there's two sides of Orin, right? He's like one of the only gods that has that cool duality of there's the male side that's like the protector of the forest, the aggressive side, and then he sometimes appears as a female version of himself. It's like the nurturing like side of nature, and I think
nurture versus nature. I like that. Yeah.
I think that the druids, unlike say a druid that is of the Terraman mindset, where they don't take that oath they might fall more in line with the male version of Orin, where these people probably fall more in line with the female. Like Orin probably appears to them in female version if they see Orin.
Well, that tracks too, because the Terraman elves literally speak with the trees, so they'd be a little bit more aggressive about protecting. You know, they're like a bunch of Loraxes.
Yeah,
but meaner and with less mustaches.
And sometimes wise though. Straightforwardly wise.
Okay, well, that's fair. But yeah, I think the next really interesting character that Brown really wanted to talk about, also an elf, just a different kind, different flavor, a lot meaner than all the others, but pretty cool.
That would go into the frozen enigma that is the Magicon. You probably haven't heard a lot about the Magicon so far. This has been kind of a little project me and Cole have worked on back and forth. Feels a little disingenuous to have a character that I created be one of my favorites, but
absolutely not. That's all of my characters.
The biggest reason, it's not even so much that he's my favorite character in the dynamic that we've been developing with him. It's his relationship to a character that Cole's going to talk about in a little while, and almost a hatred and a rivalry between the two. And that just, the way I always describe it is that, yes, he hates him, but when it comes to the study of magic, the advancement of the arcane, if Cole's character was to come to him, he would gladly accept him into his school. That school being on the island of Illyria, once a tropical island that...
I know Illyria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through maybe some devious uses of his arcane forces, is now a frozen wasteland. The
you gotta beat the heat somehow.
Huh?
You gotta beat the heat somehow.
Well, it's a little rough though when you're indigenous people that are adapted to warmer temperatures, and now the highs 30 degrees.
They look good in parkas. They'll be fine.
Yeah, so he all in the advancement of the arcane. That's the justification. So the Magicon, he's there's so much to say, but there's not at the same time. He's an enigma that is frozen in his own creation. Dabbles with a couple ancient magics here and there, things that are being fleshed out, may never be fleshed out. Really, time's going to tell on some of that. And it just his outlook on everything is cold.
I'll tell you what I find the most interesting thing about him, and I've thought about it with multiple magical characters, and the way we've set it up is like, we all know that this ancient Merriman magic is like, it's like super powerful, and like they lost the key to it. It's almost like this Atlantis type deal, right?
Yeah.
And you would think that there'd be more wizards that like, I'm gonna like try to delve into this and learn the secrets of it, but no, it's just this guy.
Just
the rest of them are kind of like.
Well, to be fair, it's hard, right? The Green Islands, you're probably going to die if you go out there trying to explore by the natives. I mean, the Merriman Elves are not friendly people.
Freeze them.
Yeah. Only the ones on the Isle of the Crescent Moon, the traditionalist Merrimans, the ones that want to go back to their old ways.
Sure.
But they are at the very bottom, so you have to go through all the mean, snarling Merriman to get to the nice...
The pirates.
Yeah, that would be a little rough.
Hey, Cole, what's a pirate's favorite letter?
Be the C they love.
That's right. It's not
R. I was going to say R.
Well, hey, listen. We all grew up on the same commercial.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I think that the Magicon goes either way in the future of this. Like, he's either, like, going to be this really, like... really interesting side thing to a campaign that you run into, and you're like, oh, who's this guy? And he's like, oh, well, this is who I am. And you're like, wow, that's a lot to drop on me for like the side part of a campaign.
Oh, 100%.
Or he could turn to be like a very adversarial thing that you're coming against.
I mean, I guess it really just depends. Are you here to learn or be frozen?
Well, I see the party, of especially our players coming on a frozen island and meeting this indigenous people. They're like, you want to help us bring liberty back to our island? And our players are going to be like, absolutely, I do.
America.
I wouldn't rush him.
No.
There's been some history of that, and I wouldn't suggest it.
Is he honorable?
He says he is.
Well, because I could challenge him to a snowball fight. Winner takes all.
His snowballs are definitely going to have just big chunks of ice in them.
Okay.
It's his own honor system.
And that's fair. That's totally fair.
It's why they call it justice.
It is just... It is...
Well,
Well, not us. It's them. Really.
Yeah.
Just them.
Just them.
Yep.
Blind. Well, we might as well just talk about the Pirate King then. We're there.
That is true. And again, the Pirate King, Darius, he's one of those characters that it's not really even him that is the reason he's one of my favorites. It is the interaction that he has with his surrounding, his subordinates, those who, whether it be for their own personal gain or trying to get one over on him, adversarial, those interactions make him incredibly interesting. I'm really not sure how much you want us to say about the Pirate King.
Oh no!
I just like his mystique.
Exactly.
You quote him, and people are immediately in fear. I mean, he has quite the reputation. No one knows how old he is. I mean, it could be like a whole Dread Pirate Robert situation. Maybe not. But Merriman elves, they only live, 400 or 500 years. But he has been known for much longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, I like that he starts with this reputation, and it's kind of weird. I think we just threw it in a game one time that people were scared of, and now we have to live him up to that. So any interaction with him is like, oh, you failed me? Lungs full of water. He's very Darth Vader behind his throne.
And I even remember the situation that it came up with. We were doing the friend campaign. I was sitting next to the person I talk about a lot on this, 2 episodes that we've done now, Jacob. And we offhand mentioned him, and then we just role-played for no apparent reason that he was this big bad, this really scary character. Hush, we're not going to mess with this person because they're related to the Pirate King. And it just kind of spiraled from there. Everyone just jumped on board.
Yeah, it has honestly created one of the coolest characters that's out there. I love to use him as a DM because usually, you're like, oh, I want to introduce the party to this character, but it's gonna have to be slow introduced to why they're so evil. But at this point, with our play group and the world we built around it, you're like Pirate King Darius, and you're like, yeah, don't be shocked if he fills your lungs full of water.
You're dead.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't disappoint him. That would be a good place to start.
Well, and I think you have created a good dynamic with that. In the future of campaigns, might really delve into who Darius is on a personal side with Bonnie.
Yeah.
And that relationship.
Yep, old Bartholomew, he does have a very interesting relationship with Darius. Father figure, savior, devil. In some ways, it's very back and forth, and I don't even think Bonnie understands what their relationship is. Of course, Darius understands it black and white. Bonnie's a tool, something to be used. But if he's the first face you see after you've been rescued from a sinking ship, left
as a boy
to drift, as a very young boy, you're probably going to admire the man. And then just a few years later, he's naming you as a captain in his fleet.
He's definitely a master manipulator.
Exactly. Sure. So I agree with that. I think their relationship is going to be very fun to see how it plays out moving forward.
And you want to talk about somebody, you say Pirate King Darius, and you don't really think oh, this is this really magical bad guy. But in a way he is, because the Merriman control of the sea elves, or not the sea elves, I'm sorry, but the sea serpents resides in Darius himself. He directs the sea
he's
serpents.
overpowered. You don't want to, even massively powerful characters that we'll talk about later, or even ones that we have talked about, on land, maybe they've got a chance, but on water, they're pretty screwed.
I would love to do a campaign that explores, and I think we will eventually on the channel, that explores the means of that power.
I think we've dived into it a little bit in whispers, but you're right. It's definitely not been a real big in your face reason. But no, he is really cool. And I think we kind of lied last episode about Freehold being the most diverse, because truly, because of being enslaved and turned into pirates, Green Island's a pretty good mix as well. A less fun mix because you're practically enslaved.
Yeah,
a mix nonetheless.
In Bonnie's experience, you can kind of go back and forth as you please.
You just better deliver.
Yeah,
like a mule.
Yeah, and Gosh, one of the characters I'm going to talk about later just has good interactions with Darius too. Dylan, I think we have yet to hear one of your favorite characters.
Well, like Brown said, I got to plug somebody that I created. But, she's near and dear to my heart, and I know to yours because it's an homage to a relative, really strong lady. And we really pulled from real life. I mean, she's a tough cookie, the character is, but who she's based off of. She is alive around the time of the Winter War. Her brother becomes the head of a lesser lordship in Arthuria because his father dies in the Winter War, and he goes out and dies in the Winter War. A little crusade stuff. Yeah, right. Well, it's a pretty good pattern.
I wonder what Darius was doing. Just kidding.
Kicking his feet up in the sand, I guess.
It's the Winter War?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They don't have a good history with ice.
No one in Arthuria is like, ice. Yeah. Or Trusia as a whole. But yeah, so she kind of unexpectedly, it's not very common. I mean, it's seen that women will become the lead of their families, but again, not very common. But she just kind of picked up where her brother left off and fought, and to the end of the war she lived, and she ruled the Nossobor house for a super long time. And it's just kind of cool to see because, again, we talk about it all the time. Winter War is a cool era. It's a cool story. It's a cool war. But I just think it's really neat being able to see kind of from a not in charge standpoint throughout the war. And that's what she is. I mean, she leads a very small siege group from her own lands after they were clearly decimated, going through two leaders of the household first.
Well, and siege groups have historically high mortality rate anyway. Sure. But
she beat the odds.
She did.
Yeah. I mean, and the house is definitely fodder. It's in the, military complex of Arthuria. Mm-hmm. It's literally touching where they're pumping out soldiers. So it's to be expected that they're going to get thrown on the front lines. They're the ones that are engaged the most in training. It doesn't necessarily make them the best, clearly, because they lost multiple leaders of their house, but
it's subjective, right?
Yeah,
they might have lost people, but did they ever fail to complete their sapper mission?
Oh, I'm sure. In my mind, I'm imagining Norma Nossobor out there. She loses her sword, and she's like, "What am I going to do? I'm going to literally just crush these dudes' skulls." I mean, the low men are just significantly weaker, and I just imagine her just popping it like a grape. A lot. I imagine that a lot. It's unhealthy, but I like it.
Yeah, that's tragic. That really is.
Yeah. But she runs the family for a very, very long time. One of the longest running.
Oh, yeah. I imagine character-wise, like one of those really grizzled matriarch kind of characters.
That's exactly what she is.
Yeah. God.
And one that you wouldn't want to mess with either, because she's clearly proficient. I mean, she lasted the longest in her line through that war. But yeah, I'd love to see her in a campaign. We've seen the Nossobor family in a campaign, her descendant, but it's few and far between. But I'd love to see them pop up again.
Oh, absolutely. Gosh. I know we're talking about characters, but it's so easy to. It's
okay. Slip. We can get. There's some rabbit holes, Alice. We can go down.
Yeah, I mean, I think about especially with the structure of the Winter War and everything, the absolute killer of this military campaign you could make in the Winter War.
Oh yeah, like a spec ops group,
yeah, or you report to this commander of this group, and he's constantly sending the party out to do stuff throughout the war. You run into those characters that are because in modern Arthuria we're so removed from Winter War scale conflict.
Yeah.
Sure, minor War of Succession, Goblin Wars, maybe a little bit here and there, but you're not running into that really grizzled veteran cast that would come out of the Winter War, and probably people like Norma Nossobor developed the stronghold Arthuria had on the continent afterwards, the strength in those people.
Well, that is true. It's kind of our era between Vietnam and the Gulf. Mm-hmm. Right? We kind of lost most of really good training, first-hand accounts in our military, and it is somewhat similar to the beginning of the Winter War. Most of them were just goblin conflicts and conflicts between houses, just little turf wars. But you have people like Copeland Danu at the beginning of the Winter War, who's like essentially the general that they send in, who has the most experience. He's the most well known for fighting, but even then, like perspective wise, not a big deal at all.
Right.
I mean, the veterans you got out of the Winter War, that's how they set the stage for Arthuria really from then on, as far as the military is concerned.
Early dominance of Arthurian military for sure.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Talk about the king.
Yeah.
Get into the king.
I was just thinking about it. Our favorite king. The only king we really play with all the time.
He is the only one that we've really mentioned hard.
Right, and that's just because of his importance. But King Menelaus Arendu.
I hate him.
Really?
I don't know. I just think he's got a weird looking head.
Well, is he the favorite king because he's the favorite king, or is that era just the best to play in a lot of ways?
Or the one we chose.
It is a good one. It's the Silver Age of Arthuria.
Yeah.
So you can't look down on it, certainly. But you're right. I mean, it's definitely...
There's a lot of factors there. I mean, he's
chicken or egg.
He's a good king. He's a good king. He does a lot of good things.
Yeah, I think he has a... He's not set up for success. You know, he's the son of King Alien, who is...
Alan?
No.
Not Alan the Alien?
Mm-mm.
Okay, just making sure.
Who is the... excuse me. He's the heir, the true heir, and the last succession war is him and his brothers fighting towards the end of his father's reign. And out of this conflict, it's like the fourth succession war where this has happened. Menelaus' grandfather signs the like one heir proclamation. Kind of, it seems like a good solution in a time where you're like, well, we can't have succession wars if there's only one heir. But as we see,
2020.
As we see by the time of Menelaus, who's really the first generation it affects, he has no peers to grow up with. He grows up like this very like lonely solitude, like childhood that he doesn't build any relationships with anybody but people who are subservient to him. Has no peers to bounce his ideas off of. I think it informs who he becomes as a person in the fact that early on when he's a kid, his father, who is older when Menelaus is born anyway, takes him, he's probably about 14 years old, takes him to Druidwood at the end of Baliol Arcanus' line. It comes to an end, and there's the way that they choose to do the succession, because you have all these like druids who are arguing about who's going to be king, and the archdruid at the time comes in and pretty much speaks to the trees and opens the base of the thassel tree. It opens up, and it permits no one into it until this boy named Rohir comes in. And this boy named Rohir goes in and becomes the druid king, and he's inside the tree for like a whole fortnight, and it creates this festival around it. Like they're just waiting on this boy to come out and see what's going to happen. And it becomes later on in history this festival called the King Making. And the only reason I'm going into that is it becomes so famous that on Griffinback, Menelaus and his father travel down there.
Side note, that's just a fantastic way to arrive.
It is.
Like, just say it, Griffinback.
Yeah, who's going to top it?
But
Jacob would top a griffin.
Shortly after they get there, this boy Rohir comes out, and he's proclaimed king, and then he's met with the High King of the continent and Menelaus, and the two they stay there for a time, and they really build this relationship and try to mentor this boy who's this peasant boy from like a mushroom picking tribe in the woods into a king, and it becomes Menelaus'
He's a truffle pick.
Right.
That's great.
And he becomes Menelaus' only friend. Like, it builds a friendship because of the tragedy of his upbringing that lasts his entire life, and it's with the dude a whole continent away. I think it really informs his childhood, informs a lot of what Menelaus becomes, is what I'm getting at.
Right.
Because you fast forward from that, Rohir is much older and Menelaus is much older,
And more Griffinback.
Right. Rohir is much is still very close to Menelaus, and Menelaus comes to him and says, I want to, this is probably about when he's probably 50 years old, he says, I want to put a druid in the major courts across the realm. Mm-hmm. And they make that happen. For Menelaus, it's very politically savvy because it puts someone with an ear to his ally in the household of every major lord on the continent. And to the druids, they see it as Menelaus being like, hey, I believe in what you do, I want to help people, let's push this out of here.
Yeah. It would be really honorable to the tradition. It would harken back to the hedge priests as well. Mm-hmm. So that would be something really hard for anyone to kind of downplay the ability for that to happen. Just, you're going to tell him that he can't do his 1,000-year-old tradition all of a sudden? So it's politically expedient for him, but also goodwill with his closest ally and all these different things.
Right. And, another side that defines Menelaus is that his father is very melancholy, very scarred in a lot of ways from literally having to murder a few of his brothers and then put the rest of them to death over this thing. And he retreats into himself and becomes this hands-off king of Arthoria, or not Arthoria, he becomes this hands-off king of the continent that kind of allows Arthurian influence to degrade to an unhealthy point, like to where
different entities are able to slip in, grow, fester.
Right. Mm-hmm. And the question begins to be asked, are these places not just Arthurian in name only? Mm-hmm. And I think that pushes Menelaus into what he has become, which is a king who, without giving too much foreshadowing, doesn't watch what's in his closet in view of what's in his yard. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
I agree. I think his upbringing kind of makes him a little bit of a pacifist, let's be honest. Not like fully in that terminology and in that definition, but he's definitely a little bit more easygoing, which kind of also bites him in the butt.
It does, and largely, again, because he does more things that are meant to, like, Menelaus cedes a large amount of his authority in ruling Arthoria to his council. Mm-hmm. Because he's like, I've got to fix what my father's let happened abroad. And then that's why he signs the Nobility Act that allows nobles to relinquish their titles in Arthoria to go, like we talked about in the Forktown video, to go and colonize Forktown. Yeah. Yes, to go colonize Forktown, bring more Arthurian influence central to the continent. He signs the Guild Expulsion Act, which expels every guild hall from the capital in the sense of pushing the guilds beyond, pushing this Arthurian influence beyond. But more than that, he wants to put the people who are influential in those guilds, he signs the Guild Expulsion Act and says, if you want to continue to make money for me, you're going to serve me in the Judicators. Mm-hmm. And he bolsters up the Judicators with if we think about it, I'd say the deadliest guilds people are the ones that are in, the deadliest guilds people are the ones that are stationed in the capital, right? So he puts this army of deadly people in one stroke into his...
And they are intense.
Yes.
The Judicators are no joke.
Right. And he takes them from this small, like, what I would imagine is probably a 50-person force. When he expels the Huntsman's Guild and the Bounty Guild from the capital region, he bolsters them by probably hundreds.
Yeah. Gosh. It just makes me think he was a little bit... ahead of his time. And I think that's also what screwed him over. It's just like culturally, they weren't ready for it. He was a little bit too big brain for him.
Yeah, he was thinking imperial.
Yeah. Like, if he would have been the king 1,000 years after he was, I mean, that would have been the golden age. Hands down. But people were a little too savage at the time.
Right. And the real tragedy of Menelaus is that he's very politically savvy, very politically intelligent, but not as much as he thinks he is. In the fact that he thinks he's getting away with a lot of this and it's going unseen. In reality, he's building that descent that leads.
He's kind of the Abraham Lincoln of the kings. I didn't want to make that comparison, but the more we talk about it, the more I think about it, he kind of is.
Well, he enables that descent through Arthurian meddling in places that leads to... the bad stuff happens late in his reign. Without giving too much detail away, it's kind of hard to talk about King Menelaus. And what's really interesting is he becomes king. I completely skipped over this detail in the excitement of talking about it, but that trip that he takes with his father, his father elects not to griffin ride back, and to take the time to show his son like what they rule. And his father, and you'll get a kick out of this, is killed by a bear on the Great Road.
An ancient bear?
Yes. No, it's just a bear, but
what are his guards doing?
Well, they all fight the bear, but it does get the king, and it leads to this thing where Menelaus is there. His father is killed in that moment when they go to meet this new king. So Menelaus really spends the first 2 years of his rule not even in the capital, because the Order of the Golden Sword takes him directly from there through Darkguard to the crown.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
And then he comes back 2 years later to a council who is filled with his father's people.
Yeah, wow. There's some purging that has to happen for that. And he's young too.
He does purge them. He allows them to rule till he's 22 years old.
Yeah,
and he just watches and because Menelaus is a sharp guy. Like I know the pacifist side it becomes very easy to go like, oh, he's an idiot. You know what I mean? Like as an onlooker,
he just thought it was the best for the situation.
Right. But he's actually very shrewd, very smart, and he's watching these people, and he's like, these aren't my policies, these are my father's policies, and he relieves them. He takes the most powerful people in Arthoria, and says, I don't like the job you're doing, and your sons are going to replace you. Pretty much says, go back to your holdfast to die.
Yeah.
And bring me your sons.
Sure.
And that's who he installs as his...
and that also ruffles some feathers.
It does, especially given the fact that that might have been a good decision for another king, but as I've established, he doesn't have the person skills to talk peer-to-peer because he never had any.
Well, I also feel like it's kind of... He's saying these really blunt things, and could he back it up? Yes. Would he back it up? Yes. But he'd rather go about it in a more peaceful way. Mm-hmm. Not because he's weak, but because he's smarter than that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know. I'm kind of changing my tune a little bit now. I'm thinking he might be a little bit better of a king. You see your father die at 14 by bear, and you immediately head to
the worst place in the
worst, most dangerous.
But what choice do they have?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was the wrong choice. I think that, like you said, that clearly that hard shift from, I'm a 14-year-old kid, I just met my best friend in the tree, to now I'm in hell. Literally.
You'd think because younger people are more impressionable, he'd have a higher opinion of the Darkguard Keep, but he doesn't really do anything.
Maybe he's
to help
terrified.
Well,
sounds like
true,
trauma.
But you just think because you have to travel with this group of people, massive group of people, you'd be like, they're cool.
Well,
or you'd have like a good opinion of them, but he's
still getting over the bear.
I didn't want to get too far into it because I don't want to delve too far into him without let it be explored elsewhere, right?
Sure, yeah.
But, at the time of Menelaus' reign, the Darkguarders are not highly thought of.
No, and that's true.
And
they're a leech on the taxpayer.
Sometimes I wonder if when Menelaus went to the Ruined Lands, if he saw a thing. Or if he was like, really, this is what we're paying for? For them to guard this
I see.
Dusty field?
Yeah, this dusty field. Imagine calling the Ruined Lands a dusty field.
Well, it would probably bring things
That's crazy.
out. It would probably bring things out if they were hiding.
That's a hot take.
No, I'm just saying. You get what I'm saying?
I do, 100%.
I'm fresh off a bear.
I gotta put that in our channel bio. A dusty field. Protecting the continent from a dusty field.
Yeah.
That's like such a counter campaign argument. Like, well, we're not even guarding anything. It's just a dusty field.
They're out there with picket signs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let them pick it on the other side. See what happens.
But yeah, I think that is a huge thing for him. And then of course he's king during he's king during most of our campaigns. He's king during Swords of Fortune when all that's going on, and then the events of Swords of Fortune directly feed Shadow of Tythair, which is like, since the War of Vorkal, Shadow of Tythair is one of the biggest supernatural
more magical
calamities
things,
to happen. Like, and I'll phrase that to be more otherworldly or divine, semi-divine things to happen to the continent since the fall of Warcloth, because it's a literal minor deity who's like, I'm going to try my hand at becoming a god. And Menelaus has the unfortunate circumstance of ruling during that time period.
And that's the other, to be fair to him. He has got a not the worst ever, but definitely a crapshoot of events that happens that he's got to deal with. Mm-hmm. I mean, it'd be hard to get strong when you're getting beaten down like every decade.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing, and we can move on from Menelaus. Probably the best thing he's ever done for Trusia is he signed the Serpent's Peace Accord with King Darius, which is this thing that says, hey, you're going to give me so far off the coastline to travel my ships, and I'm not going to hinder when you take it's this Cold War style peace. Yeah. I'm not going to hinder when you take a merchant ship or two, or going to do anything. Not that would frighten Darius, but Darius is a smart enough guy to go, how rich can I get if I don't also have to fight that monarchy? Yeah. And all I have to do is give
Kills them too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I don't have to fight them, all I have to do is give them so many miles of coastline to ship their goods unhindered. Mm-hmm. So,
no, I'll agree, and I think that perfectly leads in to possibly the coolest or second coolest bounty hunter ever, Eldon the Bane of Dawn, which is, I guess, ironic to talk about next. He is a Dawnman who hates Dawnmen. As the name suggests, he got a nickname for taking contracts that solely allow him to kill Dawnmen. And his background, I really do like. His parents were kind of like reformers almost. Were trying to get away from more of the barbaric. They definitely would have aligned well with King Menelaus, which they would have been alive in that same era. But same issue with Menelaus. People did not appreciate that, and being a low-born Dawnman, you don't have the protection of armies, right? Of lords upon lords. And so they were killed. And they're killed by corrupt judicators. What are you going to do, right? And he witnessed all of it, and as he grew up, I mean, that hatred just grew and grew. I mean, he saw the corruption and just decided, screw this. I'm going to kill these guys over and over again. I mean, so much so that he goes to the Freehold, to Forktown, which is, like we said in the first episode, one of the most notorious bounty guilds is out of Forktown. I mean, it's lawless. They're corrupt, which is kind of ironic for him to be pissed off at corruption, but to be kind of corrupt.
And to feed it, too.
Yeah. Oh, and he feeds it hard. Very, very hard.
Give and take.
Yeah, it is a give and take. But he does. He goes out there and he just massacres all kinds of magistrates, judicators. I mean, I'm trying to think of a person to kind of equate him to in real life, but he's pretty unique for the most part.
Yeah, he becomes this wraith of vengeance.
Yeah.
But it's like, to me, it's almost a semi-directed but also highly hysterical kind of vengeance.
Well, it's that duality of his personality, right? He puts off this, I'm an idiot, but is actually, hyper-intelligent. But what people don't know,
Oh, and that's some of the coolest things to see from him whenever you're playing the whole game and he's doing silly things and just playing the fool, and then he locks in. And it's like you're like, where did this come from?
That is always fantastic when a character can have that just split change. That's a very good trait, and it sounds like you've added a lot of that in the Enigma. Since I'm liking that word today.
It's a great word.
Eldon's somewhat of an enigma himself.
But it is true, and no one really finds out his intelligence until they're going to die.
Yeah.
I think it's part of him getting his rocks off. I think he's pretty jacked up. You watching your parents die. He didn't fall into a cave and then get obsessed with bats, but he certainly got obsessed with something else.
I
remember him doing the very cliche thing where he promised a goblin freedom if he helped a group of people with a map.
We carved his back off.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And
He's definitely a psychopath.
the goblin's like, you promised to free me, and he's just like flaming sword just down through the goblin, burns him to embers.
I completely forgot about that. Yeah, it was just like I remember specifically saying, I want the slowest stab possible.
Goblins always get it so rough.
Well, they are terrible, right? I mean, they're out there.
Well, some of them.
Most of them, the feral ones, which is the majority of the population, are taking different races and creating, halflings of their own kind. So they're definitely not great. I can understand the wanting to massacre them, especially the Gibbons clan. The Gucker Gibbons clan. We're not going to talk about him today, though. Imagine there's a Jacob sitting in the corner that we can look to because it's funny. But alas, he's just not here with us in spirit.
Yeah.
In spirit.
But, oh, man. Eldon.
I just like it, too, because he's a creative... He's not very magically inclined, but he's a very creative fighter. So what he lacks in magical skill, he makes up for in just being like a tactician. I'm gonna get totally flamed in the comments for this, but he's kind of like a Kakashi character. Like Kakashi is really powerful, but is he? He's not top 20. Again, I'll probably get flamed for that too, but he's not top 20 in the verse. But he's a very creative tactician when it comes to duking it out.
Yeah, it's Eldon's the training over raw talent kind. Like has molded himself into something instead of just being like this raw talented dude.
Yeah, man loves to teleport.
Yeah,
he does love to teleport. But I feel like there's a Teldar out there who's just inching their way into the conversation.
You know what? I actually think that we talk Guilford first.
It would be a nice transition with the goblins. I know I'm saying they have a hard time, even though Guilford's family did come to prominence by killing a lot of goblins.
Can I say I love the name Guilford? Honestly, if somebody said, "Do you want to partner up with Guilford?" I'd be like, "Yep," immediately, right now.
He's something.
There's so many interesting things about
he's
him.
Something.
I've been wanting to do that this whole time.
I do love the name though. It is a fun name.
He comes from a knight's family. His grandfather was knighted while leading a small force in one of the small goblin wars, uprisings. Take your pick.
Sure.
Just basically a display of immense arcane power. Now his father, also a very talented mage, but not really the kind that wants to be in the field. He's much more enthusiastic about being able to conjure a silly trick. He's actually to the point now where he's gotten a little bit older. Guilford's gotten older. He's trying to get into more of we'll stick with the time of Metalitis, so we'll go with that. He's finding ways to use his magic in a more artistic sense.
Is this Guilford?
No, this is his father.
I see.
And then you have Guilford.
Okay.
And Guilford, a character with a lot of duality in him as well. I don't want to say incredibly talented, because again, it's that you create the character, so you don't want to knock him up too high. But a talented mage.
Yeah.
Specifically, battle mage. But it has no love for magic. Hates it. Hates
a reluctant battle mage. I love that.
Now, it comes from his grandfather. Now, of course, his father, he made him love magic. His father was doing silly tricks with the magic.
His father likes the pomp and circumstance of the magic.
Exactly.
You know what that sounds like? I don't know if you've ever, and this is applicable to a lot of situations, but when you're growing up, you really place your father up in,
Yes.
And then you get a little older, and I can see in his situation where he's like, these are just stupid little tricks.
In a way, he likes the tricks though. Still, as a grown man, in his mid-ish 20s,
Super young.
Yes,
What
for a
race is he?
Dawnman. Yes, he is
a
a
Dawnman.
Dawnman.
Okay, yeah.
But he's still, the tricks are what he likes about magic. And that comes from when he did awaken his arcane talents, watching his grandfather, a man of pushing right around 500, like towards the end of the Dawnman lifespan. 500, right?
About 300.
300, that's what it is.
But there's some outliers.
Anyway, pushing towards the end of his lifespan, and he's watching this crippled, very downtrodden, had a very hard life. He was a sellsword until he impressed the right person. Still train with his magic. And just decides, well, maybe I can. And he considers that to be the worst day of his life. Because he does cast that blaze, and the next thing you know, you're not going home now. You're staying with Pop, and Pop's going to show you how to properly use this.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Well, not only that, they ship him off to school, right?
Well, I would say that's going to lean more into the love of magic. Not going to mention the name, but a character does kind of. Galandril does kind of save Guilford, and shows him that magic isn't just about slaying a bunch of goblins. It reinforces the things that his father taught
let's
him.
not limit ourselves. We can definitely kill goblins.
There's a large portion of what's enjoyable about magic that's the killing of goblins.
There is, but I think about using, some type of minor illusion spell to just entertain yourself a little bit. Maybe a little puppet show. It doesn't have to always be, fire explosions and lightning.
I got you, yeah.
Although lightning is Guilford's preferred.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is he somewhat an electromancer battle mage?
Going into that route a little bit.
Okay.
Not quite to that level where I would definitely say electromancer.
Sure.
But that is where he tends to
He has a
lean.
proficiency.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And I think also it's wants to stay away from the ice magic. I did another character who liked ice magic, and that was his grandfather. I can't help it.
You like it.
I do
That's
like
totally
ice
fine.
magic. I do like ice magic, so I had to make a
You watch
character that
too
hates
much
it.
Adventure Time, and I get that. It's totally fine.
I didn't really watch that much Adventure
Well, totally
Time,
fine.
believe it or
Totally
not. Never
fine.
seen the
I'm
end
not
of it.
hurt by that.
You made for someone who's... I'm getting very strong images of the Ice King.
Every single time you talk about all of these
The
people,
grandfather could be. The grandfather could be.
Does he have a penguin servant?
No.
The Magicon is just the Ice King, in a way.
Magic artifacts. More magic, less princessy.
Yeah.
Although
I heard the same thing just now.
there is a little madness. But yeah, Guilford, he's just... we've got to get off the ice.
Okay.
It's breaking. That was bad. That was bad.
I like that.
That was bad.
That was a slippery slope.
It is. And hence why we go with the lightning for Guilford.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's get on to the lightning, please.
So, Galandril comes along, takes him off to Arthoria. New Methlos. Shows him magic doesn't have to be exclusively for war. It doesn't have to be exclusively for battle. And now he's kind of crossroadsy in a way, in the sense that does he hate magic or does he not? And again, it kind of, the reason I like Guilford so much is because of his relationship with old Gal Pal.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have in
Gal Pal. That's just as good as a dusty field. Oh my god.
Every time
Y'all
I
are
refer to Galandril as Guilford, it is Gal Pal.
I love and
He doesn't shut it down, so I mean, I'm gonna run with it till he tells me to stop, and then maybe a little bit
I
farther.
think he did shut it down in the last game.
That doesn't count.
The most powerful wizard ever in history, Gal Pal.
Yeah, what's really funny is, and I'm now 100% going to save him for the next time we do this, because I'm not going to go into Galandril today. I was going to, but I think it'll be better if that's how we start the next one. Guilford's story is kind of very, like, I know you didn't know the backstory of Galandril, but it's very...
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's very... Galandril's somebody who, and you know this, could take sympathy on Guilford for that backstory. Like,
He's got a rough upbringing.
Yeah, prodigy, or sorry. Sorry. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Prodigy, sorry. Prodigy and magic, same as Galadriel. Pushed into magic, kind of the same as Galadriel is by his family. And what's kind of tragic about their relationship is that Galadriel sends him out into the world to to do things that are of responsibility that are higher than what Guilford should be asked to do. The same way that Galadriel was asked to do so, or took upon himself whenever he was younger.
Then berate him for complaining about it. Every time.
He's old.
Every time.
He's old.
He's crotchety. That's what it amounts to.
Oh, gosh. Well, if we're not talking about Galadriel, I think we only have one more victim to...
Teldar and Beazle.
Oh, Teldar. I completely forgot about Teldar.
Yeah. We've mentioned elves so much, we might as well mention probably one of the most famous of them all.
Might as well. Well, I think we already said Galadriel, but sure.
Yeah. Well, there are no elves without Teldar. So Teldar, he's often called the first elf lord. In fact, it's said that all of the true steel weapons of the elves shine with the light of Teldar. Like, that's what the feature of them is called, right? Because he was this super powerful
I'm just kidding. The light of Teldar.
Well, and he comes from a time when all the elves, there wasn't Primordian, there wasn't Terramin, there wasn't Merriman elves. They were all just elves. And they were created by Zeros and the other gods to kind of be like this.
They're the stewards of the land.
Well, this is before that even, because the world is young, and Zeros, is interested in this great experiment he's running. He's made these races of men, and he's putting them down on the map, and he's like, I'm trying to rule this. He's like, but in creating this, I need the opinion. Like, he realizes I am immortal, and I need the opinion of mortals when I'm creating this. So he creates Teldar and the first elves to live amongst them. Because, they live in the halls of abundant wisdom with subversion for a long time. And they advise the gods on, I think the mortals would benefit more from this and this. And they're kind of like advisors. The mortal eyes the gods use when they're kind of building the world in early prehistory. And Teldar quickly becomes the leader of them. He's seen as the wisest. He's seen as the one who embodies the virtues of Zeros the best. And he's sought by all gods for conversation, to the point that even Vorkoth seeks speech with Teldar, and they have conversation.
Not terrible advice, I'll tell you that.
Right. Well, this is prior to the fall too.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about me being super evil? I love the idea, man. Go for it.
There can't be a story without conflict.
You're gonna play patty cake all day?
Yeah. Well, and so Teldar is leading them, and much I think in the fashion of elves and other industries, it's kind of like these beings who they're quasi-immortal because of where they're living, but in reality their souls, they begin to feel very stretched, and Teldar is seeing all these mortals benefit from this world, and he has lived with subversion for so long that he's like, hey, can I take my people and live in the world that we've helped you create? And Zeros agrees to it, and subversion opens a hole into his realm, and he leads what will become the Primordian elves out. The Terramin stay a little longer. What becomes the Terramin elves stay just slightly longer. But
and then Merriman elves are half-baked and then put in the world.
Well, we'll get to that in the podcast. But, he leads them out, and from his garden, Subversion gives Teldar this the seed for one of his lily trees. And that's why you see them in the mountain vale, and he plants it there, and it becomes this centerpiece of the Elven Citadel, which is just my headcanon term for the capital area. And that is the gift of subversion that hides their realm.
The magic behind it. You can't get there unless you've been there.
Right. And that's really
which is true for most places without a map.
That's the big thing about Teldar. It's I guess there's not very much there's no feat greater than him bringing the Primordian elves onto the world and establishing that culture and establishing what they become. Because by the time Vorkoth rebels, he's gone. He's dead at that point. So he doesn't get any major conflicts out of it. But
we all know the truth. Vorkoth is scared of him. He's got that dog in him.
No, I think that Teldar would have been a consideration of Vorkoth's had he been alive. I do think that that he would have maybe been like, I need more than the Skirins and the Egregoths and these other people to deal with.
Well, they did suck. To be fair, I mean that's why Vorkoth went after.
Right, and it's not even that. Like, I don't want to make it sound like Teldar's like taking armies by himself. He's just, when you're the god's favorite elf and you get to converse with them one-on-one and do all this stuff, you learn things that would probably make Vorkoth hesitant to be like, yeah, we need to go after the elves. So,
I think that's fair.
And that's where I'll leave Teldar for now. I just wanted to really talk him because the elves are my favorite people in Trusia, and if I'm going to start a conversation on them, I want to talk about the one who really brought them into the world there.
Ironically, we talked about him last, but yeah.
Oh, unexpected thing Teldar does.
That's where I'll leave off. But hold on,
I'm sorry.
Wait, there's more.
The rift that is torn in the in between that allows the elves out of Subversion's realm is the same rift that allows goblins to also spill into the world, because it kind of like tatters several parts of the gods, like different realms of influence, to let them out. And at that time, the goblins are still very much like they're the failed lab experiments of Intellikai, like caged in his realm. And whenever the rift is torn open to allow the elves out, the goblins are just kind of like, fall out to me, you know what I mean? So it's like a
direct quote.
Unexpected consequence.
Sure.
Well, and that's the mythological answer. You know, the scholars of Trusia have different debates. But
Sure. But this is the truth. Yeah. That is so funny.
So the elf that essentially kick-started it all is also the one
who wasn't like, should we just kill these things?
Who
he didn't see them in
released goblins upon Greater Trusia.
Yeah. Actions have consequences, both good and bad.
Yeah, that knocks him down a peg over here. It's just kind of...
He also gave you true steel weapons, though.
Who needs true steel when you have Dragon Forged? Yeah, suck on that.
That's a fair point.
And he gave you the strongest magic on the continent.
I think we've already established I hate it.
That's true. Now the one I've been waiting for.
I know, honestly, the most ridiculous character. Okay, there's a contender. There's a contender with this character, but Beazle is the first ever playable Cobalt we've had in a campaign. And he's a freak. I mean, the first thing that we see him do is just taking milk straight from the udder of a cow. And he talks the most ridiculous way. Yeah. Give us a taste.
No.
Give us a taste.
Still have to watch it in the campaign.
Beazle. Yeah, that's exactly what he sounds like. Beazle, oh my gosh.
The front man
Esther
for the most famous...
Esther and the Screeching Beazles.
Yes.
That's what it is.
The front man for the most famous bard group in all of the land.
Yeah. No, Beazle is so interesting. I'll let you talk about the origins first. Like, what made you think about him?
Oh, yeah. So I just wanted to play this... I wanted to play a character that would be hard, like, a little bit harder of a role play.
And hard for me.
Yes, and hard for Dylan. And I took this Cobalt. Now, without getting too deep into the Cobalts, they live in like these little clan-based societies in the Fire Plains. We've all talked about this.
Right.
Beazle's kind of like the runt. He's kind of ostracized. And
he does have unique magic.
He gets, in being ostracized like that, he kind of becomes like a favorite of Tythair. But like, this is long after Tythair has no more, like, he's not world conquesting at this time. So like, Beazle's not an agent of evil. But he does give Beazle as this creature who's probably been inspired a lot of fear and paranoia. He allows him this shadow magic. So Beazle has become very proficient in the art of like sneaking and stealing, and he's used by his clan.
Understatement.
Like that. Yes,
probably the best rogue we've seen on screen.
Yeah,
that's true. He probably is the best rogue. Yeah, but because he doesn't understand anything, like he's
like extremely. He's like childly naive.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say stupid. He's not like stupid. He's just like naive, as in. Like,
but to cultural differences, he would come off as stupid.
right. Like he at one point in time, and this is
The
just
dictionary.
No.
dictionary's
He has
good,
a
though.
dictionary that's not even a real dictionary.
And he can't read.
Yes, and he can't read.
It's like I think it's like a magic spell book or something. It's something like that.
Yeah, it's something he can't use. He has no reason to have it, but he like calls it a dictionary.
And he'll somehow they'll learn behavior, I imagine, but
From observing from afar.
yeah.
But he's like told to go steal coins, and he doesn't know what coins is, and so he's like, coins, like, what are you talking about? And the other dude's like, get the shiny, Beazle. So Beazle steals everything but coins. I'm talking like polished, like pewter cups and plates, and like they get out of this bar thinking that the heist has gone successful, and he dumps and he let me like say what I stole afterwards, and I'm like, I dump it out, and it's nothing but cups and plates and stuff.
But the funny thing is, you get caught.
Yes.
And who does the massacring? Always Beazle. And they're not like, I mean, they're pretty comparable to goblins as far as like health goes and strength and everything like that. But he was a murdering fiend. I don't know what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it was I think to play him, you kind of have to go to the feral side, and like the whole like.
He bit some necks out.
Yeah, and I think you have to go to the like cornered animal approach, like whenever he's like thrown in a cage and these dawnmen are on top of him, like, and he's like this tall, like
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's that.
Makes a lot of sense.
Well, it truly made his character flourish because instead of having a logical, grounded partner, he also had a ridiculous character through Gus. Right, Gus Knave, who's just a alcoholic dwarven bard, who kind of became a little bit of a joke of a character, too, just like Beazle. But as soon as Beazle said something, Gus was like, "Go for it! Like, let's do it."
yeah. Well, and the best thing about Beazle is, believe it or not, he becomes the champion of like the mayor of a town, like. The personal envoy with like letters of marque and everything. You remember that?
Yeah. It's literally the Nossobor descendant, Sylvia Nossobor.
Yes.
She's the leader of her house at the time.
And he's got a way with animals that is like insane. Like
He has a weird harem, that's for sure.
Get to the cow. That is. It's always been my favorite thing about Beazle is the cow.
well, Beazle loves warm milk. It's like the best.
Homelander.
Yeah, it's the best thing he's ever had. And he finds this cow, and he literally refuses to leave. Like, when Gus is like trying to get him to come with him in the beginning, because like
They steal the cow.
yeah, in Evan, who played Gus's mind at that time, like Beazle's a gold mine. Like Gus is going to entertain everybody, and Beazle's going to steal their stuff. Mm-hmm. But Beazle's like not leaving until like they take the cow. So Esther becomes a member of the group.
Gus's wife.
Yes, well, we tell people that.
Yeah.
But yes.
And you have alopecia. No, not alopecia, vitiligo, but I said the wrong thing. Yeah. Oh my god.
That is the first time I've heard the cow's name.
Oh yeah.
Esther the cow is fantastic.
And that's how they have the band name Esther and the Screeching Beazles.
There's 4 of us in the band because Madam Raccoon's also in there.
I knew about the raccoon, but that is the first time I've heard the cow's name.
Oh yeah, Esther. I don't know if I made that up or what happened there, but it fell into place. That's definitely very comical. I couldn't get anywhere fighting you two, but yeah, Beazle's a free spirit. And possibly one of the most fun characters I've been able to interact with.
He did... I played 3 campaigns in a row, where somehow 3 campaigns in a row, I had to persuade a group of goblins that I was the Goblin King, and 2 of them were unaffiliated with Trusia, and in this one, Beazle also persuaded a horde of goblins that he was the Goblin King from the far north of the fireplace.
They thought he was a stone goblin. Mm-hmm. No, you really do. He just achieves. I mean, this guy has no charisma, but max charisma. I mean, I remember setting up...
We stole it.
I remember setting up a situation where I wanted... Because neither of them were big fighters. Beazle or Gus's, the characters, I set up like a stronghold house of these corrupt people with a bunch of Dawnmen. One Dawnman alone could have easily killed both of you under normal circumstances. And it was supposed to be more of like a dialogue, conversation to get out of the situation, which in hindsight was a terrible idea because you two are ridiculous together. But it went awry, fighting broke out, and Beazle single-handedly, because Gus didn't do anything, murdered like 7 or 8 different Dawnmen, and in gruesome ways.
Sneak attack feature with the rogue at 5th level.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. That tracks.
Yeah.
But he like rolled consistently high. I rolled garbage because again, one hit should have killed him. And he literally saved the day. They rescued a now tailless Esther. And then later on,
I think it was the chopping the tail off of Esther that made Beazle.
That is. I mean, you snuck back in later, or maybe it was Evan's character that snuck in later. But yeah, I mean, what did we call that episode? The Massacre of Beazle? I don't know, something like that. And it was definitely very on point. I'd love to revisit that in a live setting since it was an online campaign one day. I think that'd be really fun to bring it back.
I would love to play Beazle again.
That might happen. But that have been all the characters that we had set forth for today.
I think that is a great place to leave character introduction.
Yeah.
Especially NPCs that might populate into campaigns.
Agreed. Well, thank you for joining us. This is Talking Trusia. I'm your co-host, Dylan.
I'm your co-host, Cole.
And our guest, Brown.
He's a player.
Sometimes.